Draupadi. Draupadi is one of the most important female characters of the Mahabharata. She had 5 husbands, the Pandavas, who shared their lives with her without any animosity among themselves. She went through much pain and suffering, and yet she remained dignified and maintained her family's honor. Her fiery personality lent a glow to everything that she did. She was the total woman, complex, intelligent, beautiful, and above all, feminine. Draupadi, the king of Panchal, wanted a son, so he performed many days of worship. His deep meditation resulted in a handsome young prince who emerged out of the fire and who was later named Drishtadumna. Then, to the amazement of all, there arose from the same fire a dark maiden who was later called Draupadi. When Draupadi grew up, King Draupadi arranged a swayamvar for his daughter in order to choose the most suitable husband for her. King Draupadi decided to run an archery contest at the swayamvar. At that time, Arjun had the unmatched skill in archery, but he was believed to have died in the fire, which Duryodhan had conspired in order to kill the Pandavas. To test the ability of archery, King Draupadi tied a dead bird on the ceiling. The challenge was to shoot the eye of a dead bird while looking at its reflection in a dish of water kept on the floor. Many princes, including the Kauravas, came to attend the swayamvar. Karna also came with them. He was an excellent archer. People were certain that he would win. But Karna was not of royal lineage, and Draupadi refused to marry him. Stung by the insult, Karna left the hall. None of the other princes were able to hit the bird. Finally, an impressive-looking Brahmin stepped forward. His arrow easily found its mark. Draupadi and her father were overjoyed when they found out that the Brahmin was none other than Arjun in disguise. Draupadi garlanded Arjun and accepted him as her husband. Meanwhile, Kunti was worried that her sons had been gone so long. Finally, she heard Yudhishthira's voice, saying, "See, mother, see what we have brought." Kunti, without looking at them, answered, "Whatever it is, share it equally and enjoy it." A moment later, she came out and saw Draupadi. "Alas, what have I said?" she exclaimed. Once spoken, she could not take her words back. Yudhishthira said, "Arjun won her. It is proper that he marry her." But Arjun did not want to ignore his mother's words. He turned to Yudhishthira and said, "No, that would not be right. We shall all marry her, as mother has said." All the brothers agreed. By then, Duryodhan, the eldest of the Kauravas, heard that the disguised Brahmins at the swayamvar were none other than the Pandavas. The Kauravas were dismayed that the Pandavas were still alive and now had King Draupadi as an ally. Duryodhan, the eldest of the Kauravas, suggested, "Let us attack Draupadi and capture the Pandavas." But Bhishma, his grandfather, a just and wise person, objected. He said, "The Pandavas should receive a royal welcome, and they should be given their due share of the kingdom." Hearing this, Duryodhana arranged for the welcome of the Pandavas and gave them half of the kingdom. The Pandavas soon built a great kingdom of their own and ruled virtuously. Their fame spread far and wide. Duryodhana became more and more envious and finally went to his maternal uncle Shakuni to share his feelings. "There is one way to ruin your cousins, the Pandavas," Shakuni suggested. "Your father, Dhritarashtra, should invite Yudhishthir for a dice game. He will not refuse an invitation from your father. We will use loaded dice, and Yudhishthir will lose." Upon Duryodhana's request, without knowing about his heinous plan, Dhritarashtra sent his invitation to Yudhishthir. The game went as planned. In no time, Yudhishthir lost all his kingdom. He then gambled his brothers and lost them too. Next, he gambled his life and agreed to go into exile for 13 years, of which in the last year he would have to remain undetected or else go into exile for another 12 years. He lost again. Now he had nothing left to gamble. Shakuni cunningly said, "Play one more time. Put Draupadi as collateral. If you win, you get everything back that you have lost." Yudhishthir agreed. Shakuni cast the dice, and Yudhishthir lost again. Jubilant, Duryodhana asked his attendant, Pratikami, to go and bring Draupadi to the court. When the attendant reached Draupadi's room, Draupadi was surprised to hear that Yudhishthir had staked her in the gambling game. Draupadi refused to go, asserting this to be a gross injustice. When Pratikami arrived at the court without Draupadi, Duryodhana was furious. He immediately asked his brother Dushasan to go and bring Draupadi by force. Dushasan was most anxious to follow Duryodhana's orders, as he had once been insulted by Draupadi many years ago. So he went and dragged Draupadi into the court by her hair. People were shocked and ashamed to see the queen treated in this way. Yudhishthir could not say a word. Draupadi helplessly looked at the Pandavas, but they did not want to disobey the decision of their elder brother. Dushasan began to strip off Draupadi's sari in front of everyone. Draupadi devoutly prayed to Krishna for help. To everyone's amazement, Dushasan kept pulling on Draupadi's sari, but the cloth never came to an end. Finally, Dushasan gave up. Bhim, quivering with anger, swore that someday he would break Dushasan's limbs, kill him, and drink his blood. People looked at the elders to stop this filthy treatment of the queen. But Duryodhana shouted, "Draupadi, you are my slave. Come, sit on my lap." Bhim shouted back, "Duryodhana, mark my words. I swear that one day I will break your thigh for saying such a filthy thing to a chaste woman." Finally, Dhritarashtra intervened. He stood up, stopped the game, and apologized to Draupadi for the way in which she had been treated. He told her he would grant her 2 wishes to make up for her ill treatment. Draupadi responded, Let my husbands be free, and let them have their weapons back." All the Pandavas left for the forest, where they were to spend 13 years in exile. Because of her old age, Kunti was left behind. When they entered into the forest, the sun god, Surya, brought a gift for the virtuous Pandavas and said, "Food cooked in this vessel will be inexhaustible at each meal until Draupadi eats." Krishna, divining the Pandavas' sad plight, appeared before them too. Draupadi poured her heart out to him. "I am a noble woman. My husbands are mighty men. You are my friend. Still, I am abused thus, as all of you watch in silence. Why?" Krishna consoled her, saying, "The injustice done to you will be avenged. Truth and justice will prevail." The Pandavas built a cottage in the forest, and many sages came to visit them. Draupadi always had plenty of food until she ate at the end. Duryodhan heard about the magic bowl and was not happy when he heard the good things about the Pandavas from the sages. One day, sage Durvasa arrived at Hastinapur. Durvasa was notorious for his angry character. Duryodhan treated him well. Durvasa asked Duryodhan, "What can I do for you?" Duryodhan requested Durvasa to visit the Pandavas with all his disciples after Draupadi had finished her meal for the day. Durvasa agreed. The idea was that the Pandavas would not have any food after Draupadi's meal, and that would enrage the sage, and he would curse them. Yudhishthir welcomed Durvasa. Durvasa said, "We will soon be back after a dip in the river. Ask Draupadi to get our meal ready." Draupadi was aghast. She immediately called for Krishna. Krishna came. He asked Draupadi to bring the magic bowl. Luckily, one grain was left behind in the magic bowl. Krishna took the grain and ate it, saying, "May the soul of the universe be satiated with it." Suddenly, Durvasa and all his disciples felt too full to eat anything. How can we face Draupadi, having asked her to cook a big meal and not eat anything? "Let's slink away," Durvasa suggested. 12 years passed. In the meantime, Arjun equipped himself with more powerful weapons from Shiv and Indra. Now came the 13th year, the last year of their exile, when the Pandavas had to remain undetected. They conferred and decided to spend their last year of exile at the kingdom of Virat. All the brothers took various menial jobs at Virat's palace, and Draupadi worked for Sudeshna, Virat's wife. Virat's brother-in-law, Kichak, was the commander-in-chief, and he was an evil man. He was charmed by Draupadi's beauty and wanted to marry her. But Draupadi refused him. "I am married, and I have 5 husbands. Don't bother me, or they will kill you," she retorted. The rejected Kichak appealed to his sister for help. Sudeshna was very unwilling, but her brother insisted, and she finally agreed. She called for Draupadi and asked her to get some wine from Kichak's room. Draupadi was alarmed. "Oh, Queen, he is sure to molest me," Draupadi pleaded. But the Queen insisted. When Draupadi entered Kichak's room, Kichak was waiting. Kichak jumped to grab her, but Draupadi fled. Draupadi was very depressed, thinking of the humiliations that she had gone through, and that her husbands did not come to her rescue. Finally, she went to Bhim. Bhim promised to put an end to her misery. He told her to make plans to call Kichak to her room in the middle of the night. Bhim hid in Draupadi's bed and asked Draupadi to wait outside. The plan worked out perfectly. As soon as Kichak entered Draupadi's room, Bhim jumped on him and killed him. In all the 13 years of exile, Draupadi had never tied her hair because she had sworn that she would do so only after the humiliations she had received from Dushasan had been avenged. The Pandavas passed their 13th year in exile undetected and came to claim their kingdom from the Kauravas. But the Kauravas refused. This resulted in a war between the cousins that lasted for 18 long days. During the war, Bhim kept his promise and broke the limbs of Dushasan and sucked his blood. Then he approached Duryodhan for a mace fight. Duryodhan was also a skilled warrior. The fight continued for a long time. Finally, Krishna slapped his thigh, indicating Bhim's final move. Bhim took the cue and Duryodhan was smashed. The victorious Pandavas blew their conch shells. Yudhishthir became the emperor once again, and Draupadi the cherished queen.